Watch right now on the Front News Project. Crimea in flames. Hundreds of explosions. The military infrastructure of the temporarily occupied peninsula has been attacked. Nuclear Chernobyl in the arsenal of the Russian army. Putin threatens the world with the Burevestnik missile. Anniversary of the Ukrainian Armed Forces Kursk operation. A harsh blow to Russian military ambitions. Watch fiery, intense and blazing footage from the front lines right now. It's the fourth year of the full-scale war that Putin's Russia started on Ukrainian soil. The Ukrainian armed forces continue to heroically defend not only their homeland, but the entire civilized world from the aggression of Kremlin war criminals. Greetings, this is Front News. I'm Volodymyr Tymoshenko. In the next 30 minutes, you'll get the truth about the war, uncovered by our journalists from the hottest combat zones. So, are you ready? Then let's get started. And we're starting right away with exclusive material. There have been loud explosions in Crimea again. The Kerch Bridge is closed once more. A traffic jam of thousands of cars has formed. Explosions were heard in the Krasnoperekopsk district, Jankoy, Vardieske, and near the Starokrimsky training ground. Russian air defense fired, not very successfully, at unknown targets. In addition, the Ukrainian armed forces struck one of the largest oil refineries in southern Russia and attacked railway facilities in the Volgograd region. By the way, speaking of railways, the Russians are transferring equipment to Belarus. And this comes amid reports that Lukashenko may impose martial law in the country. As you can understand, destroying Belarus's railway logistics is yet another legitimate target for the armed forces of Ukraine. All the details are in our report.
I didn't want to get screwed. Wherever we go, there are shellings everywhere, damn it.
Look!
Yeah. What's over there behind the hill? Well, there's probably some kind of base there. Yeah, that's air defense over there. They hit all the positions.
This is a comment from an eyewitness to the strike on Russian military facilities in Crimea. The video shows an explosion near Sudak, and that's not the only target the Ukrainian armed forces hit on the temporarily occupied peninsula. Explosions also occurred in the Krasnoperekopsky district, Jankoy, Gvardeyskoye, and near the Starokrimsky training ground. Non-stop, Russian air defense tried to hit targets in the Saki district. Traffic jams of thousands of cars formed on the Kerch Bridge, which was closed off during the night without any explanation. In Russia's Krasnodar Krai, on the night of August 7th, drones struck the Afipsky oil refinery. The operational headquarters of Krasnodar Krai reported that as a result of UAV debris falling on the refinery, a technological unit for joint processing of gas and gas condensate caught fire. As a result, the fire covered an area of 250 square meters.
Strikes on the Afipsky oil refinery effectively put a pause on the supply of fuel, lubricants and motor oils to the occupying army. It should be noted that this is not the first attack by Ukrainian drones from the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine on this refinery. As of today, it is known that a technological unit for the joint processing of gas and gas condensate caught fire. The fire was assigned a 4th level of difficulty.
The governor of Krasnodar Krai also reported that drones attacked Slavyansk on Kuban. Later, the Telegram channel Astra, citing local residents, reported that after the UAV attack, military unit 61661 in Slavyansk on Kuban was on fire. In addition, a drone attack was repelled in the waters near Novorossiysk, where the Novorossiysk fuel oil terminal and the Transneft terminal are located. According to Astra, in the Krasnodar region, fragments of a UAV damaged the overhead contact system on the railway, resulting in train delays. Meanwhile, the military regime is now officially planned to be adopted in Belarus as well. Preparations for the Russian-Belarusian exercises Zapad 2025 are already in full swing there, and even laws are being rewritten that could introduce martial law in the country.
At the moment, Lukashenko is trying to maintain his agency in decision-making and will not allow the Russian Federation to drag the Republic of Belarus into a possible military confrontation with Ukraine. Therefore, the introduction of this bill is a preventive measure by Lukashenko to preserve his regime of absolute power.
Under the cover of the exercises, the Russian-Belarusian alliance has already caused a lot of trouble, which the Belarusian dictator is unlikely to be able to hide. For example, from January to April 2022, tens of thousands of Russian soldiers and hundreds of tons of equipment passed through the territory of Belarus. During this time, the Belarusian railway transported 11,189 wagons with military cargo, with a total weight of more than 225,000 tons, including 730 wagons carrying personnel. These transports were carried out under the cover of the joint exercises Union Resolve 2022. After these exercises ended, Russian troops did not leave Belarus. On the contrary, it was from here that the offensive on northern Ukraine began.
At present, the United States is pursuing a policy aimed at removing the Republic of Belarus and consequently the Lukashenko regime from the military political influence of the Russian Federation. Accordingly, this also includes political signals indicating that the United States will give Lukashenko an opportunity to take a break from Moscow's military political pressure, as well as the lifting of certain sanctions at the moment when Belarusian enterprises enter the global market and sell their products directly to end consumers without the Russian Federation acting as an intermediary.
At present, the Belarusian railway is under sanctions only from Ukraine and Canada. Formally, the transportation for military aggression was arranged as a commercial transaction, but in reality, all logistics were centrally managed by the Russian Ministry of Defense in close coordination with the Belarusian Ministry of Defense. Other companies are also involved in the deal, such as Belintatrans, Promdetal, and Polsa. Of these, only Belintatrans has come under sanctions. Sanctions from Ukraine. And now, an analysis of the operational situation on the long-suffering Pokrovsk front. The situation here is, as usual, extremely tense. Since the beginning of the day on the Pokrovsk front, Russian occupiers have made 24 attempts to push our soldiers from their positions in the areas of the settlements of Poltavka, Boykovka, Nikolaevka, Novoekonomicheskaya, Rodinskaya, Suketskaya, Lisovka, Zapovednaya, Zverevo, Kotlino, Udachnoye, Zelenikut, and Orekov. The defense forces are holding back the onslaught and have already repelled 22 attacks. And in the Kyiv region, people said goodbye to 6-year-old Matveychik, who was killed by a Russian missile. Matvey Marchenko became one of the victims of the Russian strike on a residential building on the night of July 31st. What did little Matveyka admire and dream about before the Russians took his life? TSN journalist Natalia Tkachuk will tell you more about this.
May he rest in the kingdom of heaven and find peace among the saints with Christ.
With flowers and toys near the small coffin, dozens of people gather, parents, relatives, friends, acquaintances, and strangers.
Lord, we humbly pray, grant eternal rest to the beloved child. Lord, we humbly pray, grant eternal rest to the beloved child.
6-year-old Matvey was killed by a Russian missile.
That's it. All that's truly missing now are the hangars for everything.
Matvey Marchenko's life was cut short by a Russian missile strike on a residential building in the capital on the night of July 31st. The Marchenko family's apartment was on the 6th floor. As a result of the strike, the blast wave destroyed the wall in the children's room. The debris pinned 6-year-old Matvey to his bed. The parents and neighbors tried to lift the slab themselves, but it was useless. Rescuers managed to pull Matvey out from under the rubble of the destroyed entrance unconscious, but still alive. For more than an hour, doctors tried to resuscitate the boy, but due to his injuries, Matvey's heart stopped. Six-year-old Matveychik was the youngest child in the Marchenko family. At the moment of the strike, the boy was in the apartment together with his parents and his 8-year-old brother Mikhail.
The older brother was probably somewhere at camp.
Matvey's older brother, 12-year-old Lev, was at a summer children's camp in another city at the time of the strike.
Brother Lyova, who is 12 years old, used to take him everywhere with him, you could say. And everyone knew Matvey, everyone talked to Matvey, and Matvey was always doing something fun and good, joking in a childlike way, but everyone just wanted to hug him all the time. He was simply the soul of the group.
Igor Efimenko, Matvey's karate coach. That's him next to the boy in the photograph that went around the world on July 31st. The coach says the photo was taken in May of this year, on one of the happiest days for little Matvey. He won a gold medal at the competition.
He was a very diligent child, who didn't look his age, 6 years old, but whose mind was much older. He wasn't just a child, he was pure gold. He got along great with everyone, made friends easily. He never had conflicts with anyone. He always played with everyone before and after practice. But during practice, he was completely focused.
By the age of 6, Matvey had won about 6 medals and dreamed of becoming a champion. He was learning to swim and started practicing karate a year and a half ago. He attended one of the city clubs together with his older brothers. Despite his young age, his coach says he was determined and took his training seriously.
Matvey was an obedient, kind child who simply dreamed of winning everything and everyone. He dreamed of earning as many medals as possible. I can say that Matvey was a sunny child.
Matvey's parents are not yet able to talk about what happened. At the moment, it is impossible to live in the apartment where the family lived, says the coach. That's why the sports club where Matvey trained is raising money for them to get a new home. Matvey was buried in his father's native village in the Kiev region. In total, as a result of the missile attack on the capital on July 31st, 31 people were killed, 5 of them children. The youngest was only 2 years old.
And now it's time to analyze the operational situation on the North Slobozhanska and Kursk fronts. The enemy army is up to its usual tricks here as well. On the North Slobozhanska and Kursk directions, Ukrainian soldiers repelled 7 enemy attacks today. The invaders' aviation carried out 6 strikes, dropping 16 guided aerial bombs. In addition, the enemy conducted 214 shellings of our troops' positions and populated areas, including 6 from multiple rocket launch systems. Exactly 1 year since the daring, complex, and very painful operation for the Kremlin's war criminals. On August 6, 2024, Ukrainian forces launched an offensive in the Kursk region. This was the first time in history that a non-nuclear state brought the war onto the territory of a nuclear aggressor. The start of the operation in Sudzha and neighboring settlements came as a complete surprise, both to the enemy and to Ukrainians. Sudzha itself became the most popular frontline location among foreign and Ukrainian journalists. TSN journalist Natalia Nahorna was the first to enter Sudzha. More details about the Ukrainian Armed Forces Kursk operation in the following report.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
This story began when the enemy was actively advancing into the Donetsk region, storming Vovchansk, approaching Kurakove, and was already near Toretsk. It seemed that the Ukrainian military was exhausted and there was no way to hold the defense.
In this situation, it was necessary to act unconventionally and take some unexpected steps, that is, to deliver a blow that would disrupt all their plans. That's why at first it was planned as a deep raid behind enemy lines.
As it later turned out, the plan had emerged back at the beginning of summer. They began implementing it in August. In the first days, we couldn't understand what was happening in Russia.
Imagine, planes are flying high overhead, powerful fighter jets are soaring.
These unexpected reports are coming from the Kursk region. They are being reported by Russian telegram channels. Apparently, about 300 fighters and 30 vehicles with painted triangles entered the territory.
My car is standing over there, and there's the destroyed house.
On the second day of the Kursk operation, the Russian dictator Putin convenes the National Security Council to declare it a provocation. The Ukrainian authorities refrain from commenting, but by the third day, Russian telegram channels are already shouting about a breakthrough 15 kilometers deep. The internet explodes with memes, the main theme of which is Kursk has left Russia. Day 4, a Russian column first moves out to repel the Ukrainian offensive and then goes up in flames.
Just inside the room you will find it.
On the 5th day of the Kursk operation, the first video from Ukrainian soldiers appears. With blue and yellow flags, they stand at a Gazprom gas distribution station.
Glory to Ukraine.
Glory to the heroes.
Day 7. The Ukrainian side demands a humanitarian plan for residents of the controlled territories.
You are not being offended.
You won't get us there! My legs hurt.
The locals respond to the military in Ukrainian.
Glory to Ukraine.
Glory!
Day 8. Under control are 28 villages, more than 1,000 square kilometers of territory.
Why did we manage to do this? Why did we succeed? Because we didn't act by the book. We didn't take the roads we knew, we just drove straight through the fields.
It also becomes known that our exchange fund has been significantly replenished. Putin makes a statement that this is a war of the West, fought by the hands of Ukrainians.
Such actions, without a shadow of a doubt, unequivocally pursue the primary military objective, which is specifically to halt the relentless advance of our adversaries.
But for now, we only see Kursk region in videos from our military.
Welcome to Russia.
I stopped by Pyotorochka, and I have to say the selection isn't great. At first, this was planned as a deep raid.
TSN enters Sudza on the 9th day of the operation. Nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. We see a burned-out convoy, but the settlement itself is unharmed, and we meet the locals.
They hid in the basement.
Right now, only civilians remain in this basement, hiding from airstrikes. In that very moment,
Glory to Ukraine.
Glory to the heroes!
Glory to the heroes.
Ole Shiryayev, the battalion commander who broke through to enemy territory after taking part in the Kurshina operation, became a hero of Ukraine.
It worked out on the very first day, just as it was supposed to, according to the plan.
Ukrainians see captured Kadyrovites, contract soldiers, career officers on their screens, but most of all, young conscripts.
I think conscripts aren't needed here at all, in my opinion.
And finally, after a long break, an exchange takes place. 115 for 115.
We're still alive, thank God, and glory be to God.
Sudza has become the most popular city among journalists. About 100 of my colleagues are filming as Ukrainian troops control the territory of a nuclear state. Over this month, Operation Kursk region has changed, from complete information silence to press tours for journalists. Press tours for journalists? Now Russia is shelling its own territory. A month later, there's no Lenin on this square anymore, but Ukrainian flags are hanging. But during this time, 300 Russian KAB bombs have already fallen here. Instead of the Soviet leader, there's a flag calling for freedom for the defenders of Azovstal. But just a week after this footage, on September 12th, Russia goes on the counteroffensive. Ukrainian forces take up defensive positions, and for the next 6 months, while they control this territory, there will be fierce fighting. After all, it is here that the Russians use fiber optic drones for the first time. By October, it becomes clear, Russia can't cope on its own.
This was the first case. It was the first time Russia used troops from another country on its own territory.
Kursk region becomes a testing ground for North Korean soldiers. They are technically skilled, well-trained, and not willing to surrender.
According to information, they've been here for a long time in this direction.
The first one was captured alive only in January 2025. Russia tried to claim that they were Tuvans, a Russian-style military ID and an identical dog tag.
Do you speak English? There have been documented cases where individuals have intentionally harmed themselves to avoid being taken prisoner.
In 2025, the war in the Kursk region is especially tough. The Russians are constantly trying to cut off the logistics of the Ukrainian military. During Russia's counteroffensive, the Sumy region suffers greatly from airstrikes, missiles and drones. In March, Russian troops will get behind our lines. To do this, they use an underground pipe and manage to slip through. On April 26, Putin will be reported that the Kursk region has supposedly been liberated, but the Ukrainian military claim that they still control part of the territory. At the moment, the battle for the Sumy and Kursk regions continues.
And now we move to the Lyman and Siversk directions of the front. The enemy army's bloody rampage continues here as well. In the Lyman direction today, the invading army carried out 15 attacks on Ukrainian positions in the areas of the settlements of Zelenaya Dolina, Karpovka, Yampolivka, Kolodyazi, Torske, as well as towards Serebryanka, Hrihorivka, and Olhivka. 7 clashes are still ongoing. In the Siversk direction, Russian units attempted 4 times to advance on our troops' positions in the areas of Hrihorivka and Fedorivka. 2 clashes are still ongoing. Russia is once again brandishing its nuclear club, this time with the Burevestnik missile, which is being called a nuclear Chernobyl. These Kremlin plans are evidenced by increased activity at the Pankovo test site on the Novaya Zemlya archipelago. We will talk about yet another attempt by the Russian Federation to escalate the nuclear standoff. Let's watch.
Russia is preparing new tests of one of its 5 types of so-called wonder weapons. We're talking about the Burevestnik missile, which has been dubbed the Flying Chernobyl in the United States, all because of its nuclear engine.
The missile is extremely dangerous because if the nuclear reactor is completely destroyed, if it gets shot down or if it crashes or has a catastrophic accident, a very large area, quite a significantly large area, will be severely contaminated, and absolutely no sane person in their right mind wants that to happen. That's why the Americans abandoned this environmentally unfriendly project back then.
Nuclear weapons expert Deca Everett has pointed out that the Kremlin is preparing to test its own analog of nuclear-powered weapons. According to him, this is evidenced by increased activity at the Pankovo test site on the Novaya Zemlya archipelago. In addition, the possibility of tests is also indicated by the fact that the US sent an Air Force radiation reconnaissance aircraft to Novaya Zemlya. This aircraft is equipped with sensors to monitor nuclear tests. Later, Newsweek noted that the aircraft took off from the British airbase Mildenhall and circled over the Barents Sea for about 14 hours.
If it explodes, it will contaminate everything around it. That's precisely why, as soon as the Russians commence discussions about planning some kind of nuclear test and begin to make a very public and significant show of it, an American reconnaissance or radiation monitoring aircraft is immediately dispatched to that specific area to diligently circle around and meticulously record absolutely everything that's happening.
Development of the Burevestnik began in Russia back in 2001, but it was only in 2018 that Putin publicly announced it. He did so with great pomp, claiming that its range was unlimited and its flight path could be unpredictable. During this time, Russia has tested the Burevestnik 13 times, and every attempt has ended in failure. Although one is actually considered successful, that time the Russian Wunderwaffe managed to fly a whole 35 kilometers.
Out of 13 launches, all were unsuccessful. One launch was when the missile flew 35 kilometers in 2 minutes. And this is considered the most successful launch because that time they managed to record all the parameters they wanted to capture. There is also a theory that when the major accident happened in Yonoksa, that accident was actually connected, that catastrophe, when people died and there was a significant radiation release, that it was connected. One of the versions is that it was related to this Burevestnik missile.
Putin didn't pull the Burevestnik out of his nuclear arsenal for no reason. This is just another tool for intimidation.
There's a whole frenzy being stirred up around this. Russia is portrayed as terrifyingly large, terrifyingly powerful, with a whole arsenal of weapons, 5,500 nuclear warheads, though no one really knows what condition they're in. But aside from Burston, probably no one knows. And now the deadline for Trump's ultimatum is approaching, so something needs to be done. That's why air traffic over Kapustin Yar is being shut down, so that everyone starts wondering what will be tested there. Maybe the Burevestnik will be launched, or maybe something else, and the whole world gets tense. Then they announce that there will be new tests of the Burevestnik missile or something else.
Can the Russians conduct a test of the Burevestnik? They probably can. Will it be successful? In Russia, they'll say yes. But as the statistics from previous tests show, only the Russians themselves are likely to suffer from this launch.
Now let's analyze the operational situation on the Kramatorsk and Toretsk fronts. The Russian world continues here as well to destroy, kill, and maim. On the Kramatorsk front, the enemy is trying to advance toward Novomarkove and Stupochki. Defense force units have repelled one attack. The battle is still ongoing. On the Toretsk front, the enemy is trying to break into our defenses in the areas of Delivka, Toretsk, Shcherbinivka, and Rusin Yar. Our defenders have repelled 4 assault actions by the invaders. 2 more attacks are still ongoing. Meanwhile, 3 Scandinavian countries will finance the purchase of American weapons for Ukraine worth $500 million. At the same time, the United States itself is preparing to allocate $200 million for the repair of Ukrainian howitzers. Also, in the high offices of Washington, the idea of supplying Ukraine with long-range missiles is being actively discussed. Our journalists know all the details.
Almost $500 million for the purchase of American weapons. Norway, Sweden, and Denmark are allocating $486 million for the purchase of overseas defensive weapons as part of a NATO initiative. The aid will be provided under the new prioritized Ukrainian requirement list initiative. Assistance under PURL will ensure the rapid delivery of weapons and equipment to Ukraine to strengthen air defense, in particular the purchase of missiles for the Patriot system. This summer, we have witnessed Russia relentlessly continuing its illegal attacks against Ukraine along the front line and against civilian targets in cities. With this contribution, we aim to facilitate Ukraine's rapid access to the necessary equipment, while also strengthening NATO cooperation on Ukraine's defense and ensuring peace on Ukraine's terms. Ture Sandvik, Minister of Defense of Norway. The Netherlands has already funded an aid package of similar value, and in the near future, several more such packages will be provided under the PURL framework. These aid packages include support for air defense, ammunition, and other essential equipment. Each aid package will have an estimated value of $500 million. In parallel with this initiative, the United States has approved the sale to Ukraine of services for the maintenance of M777 howitzers worth more than $200 million. The agreements consist of 2 contracts. The State Department has decided to approve the possible sale to the government of Ukraine abroad of equipment, repair services, and support for the operation of M777 howitzers and related equipment, totaling about $104 million. The Defense Security Corporation Agency has provided the required certification, notifying Congress. The deliveries will include technical assistance, training, instructions, and other elements of logistical support and maintenance. The main contractor will be BAE Systems UK. The second contract provides for the supply of transportation and logistics services to Ukraine. The government of Ukraine has requested the purchase of transportation and cargo consolidation services to support security assistance programs, as well as other related elements of logistics and program support. The total estimated cost is $99.5 million. The proposed sale will contribute to achieving the foreign policy goals and national security objectives of the United States by enhancing Ukraine's ability to provide for its own defense. The administration of US President Trump is also considering the possibility of supplying Ukraine with JASSM cruise missiles for the F-16. The first JASSM missiles have a strike range of about 370 kilometers. More advanced versions are capable of striking targets at distances of up to 1,000 kilometers. The JASSM entered service in 2003 and combined limited radar evasion capabilities with a high level of targeting accuracy and a warhead payload of 450 kilograms. Currently, this missile is operated by 4 countries, including Poland, which received 110 for its F-16 fighters. Other Cold War-era fighter jets in service with Ukraine, namely the Su-27 and Su-24M, inherited from the Soviet Union, have already been modified to launch the British and French cruise missiles Storm Shadow and Scalp, which have some comparable characteristics to the JASSM. And although Trump himself stated 2 weeks ago that he is not considering supplying Ukraine with long-range missiles, sources in the White House claim that this issue has already been under discussion for quite some time. And as we know, Trump changes his mind very quickly.
That's all for today. But very soon, Front News will bring you new, unique reports from our journalists in the hottest spots of the war, gathered so that you know the truth. This was Vladimir Timoshenko with you. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones.